What's going on, everybody? My name is Brent, and welcome to Work in Progress. This is my review for Spider-Man 2. Two things I want to make clear before we really begin, and that is, I have a hardcore Spider-Man bias, so keep that in mind when watching this review. Second, this is both a spoiler-free and a spoiler review. The first half of the video will be spoiler-free. The second half will have spoilers, and then my outro will be spoiler-free. And I'll have the timestamps in this video right here. Hey everyone, editing Brent. As I was going through this video and editing it, I noticed that there could potentially be gameplay spoilers in the spoiler-free section of the video. So depending on what you consider to be a spoiler, there could be some stuff in the spoiler-free section. I promise it's all stuff that you've seen in promotional material, but depending on how you feel, take that into consideration when continuing watching this review. So with that being said, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the story. The story is very much a wild blockbuster ride when it comes to this video game. It just takes all of these crazy elements from comics and movies and smashes them together in the best way and the craziest ways as possible. The game starts out with Peter being a teacher at Miles Morales' school, and during what appears to be his first day teaching, or one of his first days teaching, Sandman attacks the city, and Spider-Man has to ditch his class to go help Miles with taking care of the issue. So the first 30 minutes of the game is this huge boss fight against Sandman. And once that's cleared up, it is soon revealed that Sandman was triggered by Kraven the Hunter. Kraven has come to New York to tackle all these crazy villains just to kind of get this new thrill. And so that's an issue that the Spider-Men have to deal with. And that's really all I can say about the story without getting into spoilers, because it just takes off from there. I mean, some other aspects that I can talk about: Harry Osborn is back, and he and Peter start working together. Mary Jane is having her own issues with being a reporter, but it all kind of meshes together really well. Peter and Miles are a team, and MJ is part of that team. Next, let's get into the gameplay. So the gameplay, it's still pretty much the same. The game continues to get cleaner and cleaner as Insomniac gets better and better at these Spider-Man games. There is a drastic difference between Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales, and from Miles Morales to Spider-Man 2. The web swinging feels a lot better than it did in both games, with the haptic controls being a great addition to the web swinging mechanics. Then, of course, you have the web wings. They offer a really cool addition to the traversal of New York City, which is now double in size. You know, it adds 2 boroughs to the other side of the bridges. There were some other reviewers who didn't like what the web wings were doing to like the swinging, and they thought that like it made it feel more like a Superman experience rather than a Spider-Man experience. See, to me, I only ever used the web wings when I was like really high above things and I didn't have anything to swing on. I used both of them in balance, with it probably being 70% swinging and 30% using the web wings. So I thought they were a really cool addition. Let me know what you thought about the web wings in the comment section below. And there's new fighting mechanics. You have suit abilities that are just kind of all the same thing. And you have your toolkit, your gadgets, things like that. The things that I was a little bummed out with is that they got rid of some of the gadgets. And I also felt the game had you lean more into using your suit abilities rather than the gadgets themselves. I found myself not really using the gadgets that much, but using the suit abilities a lot more, with Spider-Man having spider legs coming out of his suit to attack enemies, or when he gets the black suit, he has symbiote abilities. And then Miles has his venom powers and upgraded venom powers. So they each kind of have their own 2 sets of abilities that you can change in and out. Then for the open world was pretty cool. I mean, it's typical open world BS. I like Spider-Man, so it's hard for me to like really truly be honest about the open world activities, because I had a lot of fun with the open world activities, even though some of them can get repetitive at times. But generally speaking, if you did all the open world activities, they led into a story related quest that wrapped it all up, that made it feel really good. So for example, at the beginning of the game, you start hunting down all these sand crystals. As you're collecting the sand crystals, it's all part of this mystery. And at the end is a side mission where like the mystery gets resolved. So there's a lot of that. With my favorite being the Mysterio ones. The Mysterio stuff was really, really cool. And I'm going to talk more about Mysterio in the spoiler section of this video. Another thing that I wanted to touch base on are the stealth missions with Mary Jane. There are some more of those. They're more improved in these ones. I always liked the stealth missions. I thought it was part of the greater Spider-Man experience when playing them. I can kind of understand why people don't like them, but these ones, they're a lot better and a lot more interesting. They're a bit wild, but they're still pretty good. The other thing that I want to talk about is online there seems to be cases of glitches happening with the game and people calling the game unfinished, incomplete, broken, etc., etc., etc. So that was all being talked about before I had even gotten a chance to play the game. A lot of people had earlier copies and saying that there was this issue, that issue. So what I decided to do was Insomniac advertised that they had a full, complete game on the disc. So what I decided to do was to just play the game with what's on the disc. So I disconnected my PlayStation 5 from the internet and I just downloaded what was on the disc. So I played the first hour and a half of the game with the discs, with just the disc, with the Sandman fight being at 30 frames per second fidelity, and then after that being at 60 frames per second. I did that with both playthroughs. I prefer to play the game at 60 frames per second. I forgot to change it over. So that's the reason why the first fight is in 30 frames. Anyways, I encountered a few hiccups here and there with just what was on the disc, but nothing crazy like what people on Twitter are describing. Then I downloaded the patch. I replayed the first hour and a half with the same settings. So the Sandman fight, 30 frames per second, everything after that, 60 frames per second. And it was all cleaned up. It looked a lot better with the patch, but what was on the disc was still very much playable and I didn't encounter any issues. Now, I don't want to discredit anybody who did have those issues. I'm just simply stating what I encountered and what I didn't encounter, and it wasn't as problematic as what I was seeing online. Now, that ends my spoiler-free section of the video. If you're still here and you want to talk about the spoiler stuff or hear about the spoiler stuff, stay tuned. All right, everyone, this is your final warning to get out and jump to the end of this video, with that timestamp once again being right here. All right, let's get into it. So, as a longtime Spider-Man fan, this was an absolute dream come true game from start to finish. You know, there was, like I said earlier, I loved the Mysterio stuff, and having to fight Mysterio was fantastic. Any game that you get to fight Mysterio is always going to be this incredible experience. And the Mysterio boss fight was absolutely amazing. Second, we get to see the return of Yuri Watanabe as Wraith, and she's hunting down this leader of this cult, and you're working with her, and she's kind of become this vigilante that has no problem with like killing in order to make sure people are safe. And it turns out the person she's hunting is Cletus Cassidy, who we all know as Carnage. So that was huge, or at least in this game, it's implied that's one of his aliases, right? Cletus Cassidy. So that was huge, right? That was a big thing. Next, there was also hints at Chameleon, which was dope. But I think we needed to all talk about the sort of bread and butter of this game, or like I don't know why I just said bread and butter, but like the best part about this game, and that was, of course, the symbiote and the representation of the symbiote. First, and I should have said this in my spoiler-free part, but Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker Spider-Man with the symbiote suit, that was absolutely, absolutely incredible. And in my opinion, I think he deserves Performance of the Year, because he really did a good job showing portraying what was happening with him with the symbiote and how it was like affecting him and his voice.
I need this suit. It makes me a better Spider-Man. You just want it for yourself. All I want is to save you. I'm the hero. I don't get sick.
I loved watching that all go down. Let's talk about Kraven. Kraven was interesting simply because he was definitely a one-note character that is sort of a means to an end to get to Venom. And he's only really interesting if you do the Kraven, if you do like the Hunter hideouts where you kind of get to learn more about him and his family and that dysfunctionality. So he's just kind of like this bad guy there to be bad and to push the story into the third act, which is all Venom related. Then let's move on to Venom. Venom was absolutely incredible and terrifying. I mean, the lead up to him with, backtrack a little bit. We'll come back to Venom, I promise. Towards the end of the second act of the game, Spider-Man 2 becomes this weird horror movie with essentially the symbiote taking over Peter's body, and it's almost as if he's completely unaware that it's happening, and he's wrecking house on the Hunters, and Mary Jane is having to sneak through the area and try to catch up to Peter, who's not himself and is almost full Venom himself, and he has just no idea what's happening. And it's this weird horror movie vibe as you're sneaking around and avoiding Peter and avoiding the Hunters. I absolutely loved it. Spider-Man going full symbiote was this really sort of emotional thing for me. I've always loved that story arc, and it's, you can't have Venom without Spider-Man and the symbiote and bells and noise and things like that. And watching Peter go through that, and then Miles Morales having to fight him. Talk about an emotional fight where you're playing as Miles Morales fighting Peter Parker. That, I was almost like tearing up during all of that. It was a dream come true fight, and I don't think I've ever done a boss fight that incredible before. And don't get me wrong, once again, that's probably my Spider-Man bias coming in. It was absolutely insane to bear witness to that fight and to be a part of it and to play it out. You know, it wasn't the bell tower, but it was still a bell to get rid of the symbiote suit. And I love the way that he tore it off. And it reminded me of when Tobey Maguire was getting rid of the Venom suit, the symbiote suit in Spider-Man 3 back in the day, which I thought was cool. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that Miles Morales is the glue that holds this game together. He was the heart and soul of this game, and his story arc was absolutely incredible. There were times in this game where it's just like, man, playing as Miles Morales has been incredibly emotional and intense, because he's watching Peter go through this insane thing, and he doesn't fully understand what's going on at times. And it was a really great story arc for Miles Morales. And this is coming from someone who's not necessarily the biggest Miles Morales fan, but I absolutely love this version of Miles Morales. And I think his part was incredibly memorable. And not to say that Peter's wasn't. Peter's was absolutely incredible. But Miles being the one to sort of ground the whole story really stood out to me. And watching Miles come to terms with the passing of his father, and although he didn't forgive Mr. Negative, but letting go of the hate that he had for him was really, truly something special that, yeah, I won't ever forget. Back to Venom. Man, Venom was truly something else in this game. And he was tall, he was menacing, and he was terrifying. And Tony Todd was fantastic. Being able to play as Venom when he first kind of awakens and takes over Harry, which I thought was a really interesting take. I mean, we're all used to Eddie Brock, right? But having Harry be the host for Venom was a good take. It was very well executed and thought out.
Harry. We are not Harry. We are.
And to be able to play as Venom, tearing your way through Oscorp was dope, and then being the one to finish off Kraven was even sicker. And yeah, yeah. And at this point, I'm definitely gushing. Let's wrap this thing up. Now we're going to go back to spoiler free. Some things that I want to say before we wrap things up is that one, the voice acting was absolutely incredible. Yuri Lowenthal for Spider-Man, really, really great. Miles Morales, fantastic. I forgot that actor's name. I'm sorry. Laura Bailey as Mary Jane Watson. The performance for Harry Osborn was great. This game has truly, as a longtime Spider-Man fan, this game was a dream come true kind of game. And once again, I know that's probably my Spider-Man bias coming through, but this was a wild comic book video game ride. And as a longtime Spider-Man fan, it was truly, truly something else. And I am very happy to have played this game. I got the platinum. It is a short platinum. You can get it in about 20 to 25 hours, but you know, I don't believe that a quality of the game should be synonymous with the length and vice versa. And I truly got everything that I wanted out of this game and more, and I cannot wait for New Game Plus. I'm ready to play the game again. I will be replaying this game many times in the future. Yeah, it was a dream come true. That's all I'm going to say, and I'll wrap this thing up. Everyone, I hope that you were here and you hung with me for this rather lengthy review. Thank you very much. And if you enjoyed this review or rant or rumbling on about Spider-Man 2 being such an amazing Spider-Man game, if you enjoyed it and you want to see more videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help us out here a lot. In the meantime, everyone, we'll see you in the next video, and take care. I'll catch you all later.